Hi, I'm August Lageman. I'm a professional shaman, and let me briefly tell you a little bit about my background. I graduated from the Four Winds Society, the North American version of it. The tribe into which I've been adopted is the Incas, the people that built that nice rock pile in Peru, Machu Picchu. So I attended their 3-year training program in which I learned the basics of how they do shamanistic work, how they do healing, and then after that I did some additional training, and I spent a month in Peru, Machu Picchu, Sacred Valley, things like that. So the tribe into which I've been adopted is the Incas. So the story on the Incas is pretty interesting. When the Incas had an empire and Pizarro came over with a piece of paper from the King of Spain and said, "This belongs to us." The king was very hospitable, had them out to dinner, etc. They did not reciprocate. They killed the king. And so the Spanish, with only 168 soldiers, took the country over, and what most of the Incas did is fled into the Andes, 15 to 18,000 feet. The Spanish could not get their wagons and guns and equipment up that high, so they couldn't get to them. So they lived up there in isolation from the rest of the world until about 1970, when my teacher and the head of Four Winds, Alberto Vioto, discovered them with 3 other anthropologist type people, and found that they had their own healing system, their own medicine, their own healing. And they didn't know anything about Western medicine, but they had a vibrant healing practice. So what I learned about is how they heal people. And the shaman healing is a little bit different than anything you're familiar with in terms of Western medicine. We have an energy field that is around our body, okay? If anybody ever gets too close, you're in their, you feel in their space in terms of, we have 7 energy centers, the crown, the throat, the third eye, the throat, the heart, and the bottom 3 chakras. The bottom 3 chakras connect us to the earth. The heart chakra, the bridge chakra in the middle, connects us with one another. And then the top 3 chakras connect us with God. So what the shaman does, essentially, when people come to me, and many of my clients I never see. My clients are in Australia, New Zealand, Romania, Europe, Alaska, South America. But you can do this remotely, and it works just as well, okay? So what we do is look through the energy system to see what is in the energy system that does not belong. And we see if the 7 chakras are working, okay? Sometimes when I started working, particularly with veterans, the chakras were not working. We had a kind of nasty phrase for that in the American Army. It was called dead man walking. Because if your chakras are not working and they stay not working for a month, you're not going to be on the planet that much longer. So we can reboot the chakras, and then we go through a checklist. The checklist is entities, or 1 to 5. They're low-level negative things that people have. And then they're 1 to 5. Most people have 3s and 4s. Then up the scale, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are demons, and they require an exorcism to get them out. My friend, who is German, she's also a graduate of the Four Winds, and she called me up from Hamburg, Germany, said, "I need your help." And I said, "Sure." she has 2 grown daughters. She lives in Hamburg, and on the other side of Germany, in the capital, her daughters live and work. And she said, I call them up and I can't have a civil conversation with either one of them. And what I found out is that she had what they call worldly heart cords, the anxious, dependent part of the relationship. So I removed those, and 2 days later I got a call from Hamburg, and she said, Vielen Dank, Sie geht's. I talked to both my daughters. Everything is fine now. I didn't remove the relationship. I removed the anxious dependent part of it, the cords. Okay, and then there's a second type of cords, and that is if you have a family member that has died, particularly in an accident, in a crash, in combat, these kind of things. People normally cross over from this world to the heavenly realms. Well, what happens is some people don't, if they die suddenly, they don't cross over. They're stuck in between this world and the next. Now, something you need to know about this world and the next is there is no time. So what I was telling one of you before we started taping was I was stopping at Gettysburg on my way up to upstate New York to break up the trip, and I popped into a trance. I went to seminary in Gettysburg, so I know the battlefield pretty well. And I ran into, in my trance, a Confederate captain, and I said, I'm a retired Army colonel, and he was very unfriendly. He said, whose side were you on? And I said, neither side. The country got it back together. I said, but I'm not here as a military officer. I'm here as a shaman to cross you over. And he said, I don't know what that is, but no thank you, sir. General Lee's going to be here in a day or two with reinforcements. There is no time in the spirit world. Now, the one thing I couldn't do is override that, so that's why the battlefield of Gettysburg will be forever haunted, because the people don't want to be crossed over. And this, a lot of people, not just military, but civilians. A woman drove from my mid-winter fire ceremony, the winter solstice, December 21st. I think she wanted to see me rather badly. She drove 4 hours in driving rain from Kentucky to where I am in Virginia. And so when she came in early to have a session, and the story was her husband had died 3 weeks earlier in his early 40s, an untimely death. And she said, when I get back to Kentucky, I am going to find a real good surgeon because my whole left arm is racked with pain. And I said, well, why don't you hold off on that? Why don't you get down on my table? So I did the healing ritual. And what I found attached to her left chest wall was him, her deceased husband. So I broke him out. It doesn't hurt. And I got him between my hands, his soul. Then I asked her to put her hands in between my hands. And she said, I can feel his energy. This is really cool. I said, talk to him. Have a conversation with him. So she did. Okay. Then when she finished the conversation, I did a healing and forgiveness ritual. And then what I did is sent him to the light bridge in the forest where my angels hang out. And what the angels did is crossed him over to heaven. So by the time she got off the table, he was in heaven. She felt much lighter on this side. She got up off the table and did a 360 with her arm. It didn't hurt anymore. And so I just saved a major surgery, which surgeon would have probably messed the arm up, type of thing. So it really has some profound effects on people. And the story I just told you, it's life changing, in terms of So I cross people over, I cross large groups over, and of course I started by doing individuals, and then what I did is started, because of my military background, I'm a retired Army colonel, and what I started to do was wanting to cross over large groups of like Vietnam veterans. Well, when I first did that, the angels blocked it. They said, "No, you can't do that." And I said, "Well, educate me. Tell me what's going on." Okay. And they said, "You have to do all sides. In the spirit world, there are no us and them. There are no good guys, bad guys type of thing. You have to cross them all over." So I did. So that's one of the things I do is crossing them over. Now, there's a few other things on the checklist. The next thing, I got some good news about 5 or 6 weeks ago from my Main Street host, the people who manage my website. They called me up and said, "Congratulations." And I said, "Thank you. What am I being congratulated on?" And they said, "Google has ranked you number 19 in the world in removing curses." I said, "That's pretty high up." I said, that's pretty cool. So I remove curses. Curses are subtle. A lot of people have curses and don't know they have them. And they block health. They block forward movement in your life. They block everything across the board. So you want to be curse free, okay? And then the last thing on my checklist is post-traumatic stress disorder, which I learned about in the military, but also it's not a gender-specific thing. Women can have post-traumatic stress as well as men. For example, a friend of mine is big into Rotary and goes to India every winter and gives polio vaccinations oral to poor Indian children. So I keep up with her on my Facebook page, and she sent me a picture. She was in and out of the Dubai airport, and she sent me a picture of it looked like a Middle Eastern woman, young woman, and she said this woman was jailed, beaten, robbed, raped, you name it, and all of this stuff happened to her. Her crime was driving a car. Okay, so I'm looking at this on my computer. Now, all I need to do to work with a person is an email, a phone conversation, somewhere that I can access with their energy. And I asked my angels, I said, "Can I work with this woman?" And they said, "Yeah." She had PTSD in her head, her heart, her throat, and her genitals. And so I took my trusty pendulum out. This is an amber pendulum. And I first went to the head. Counterclockwise spin is like removing the bolt on a piece of machinery. I took the PTSD out. Then I went to the heart, same thing. Torso, same thing. Finally, the genital area. So I removed 4 units of PTSD in probably 4 or 5 minutes. Now, I didn't have this woman's permission, but I got permission from my angels. I said, "I'm not going to get paid for this gig, okay?" And he said, "She needs it. Do it." Okay. So, and I don't even know the woman's name, but I removed the PTSD. The interesting thing is, down here in Johnson City, we have a VA hospital, and you can get in a therapy group for a couple years to deal with the PTSD. I don't need to know what the story is behind it. That's immaterial. First of all, I've heard all the stories. Okay. Second thing is, what I do is simply find out what organs in the body the PTSD lives in and remove it. So that's the last thing on my checklist. So when people come to me remotely or in person, I go chakras, entities, demons, poltergeists, trapped emotions, worldly cords, deceased relatives, curses, post-traumatic stress. And what I learned to do is, through the people that didn't get better, is their homes were toxic. So they were filled with what we call negative vortexes, which sucked in all the negative energy in the neighborhood. And so what I do is remove the negative vortexes, same thing with the pendulum. And then what I do is put positive vortexes in their place, usually more than I take out. So if I took 90 negative vortexes out, I'll put 100 positive vortexes in it, and then 4 light bridges in the 4 directions, south, west, north, and east. And then to protect the house, if it's a single house, I can't do this if it's an apartment or a condo, what I do is put Thor. He's the thunder guy, thunder and lightning, and he'll protect, he won't be in for dinner, but he'll protect the outside of the house. And while I'm away, right now, I have him protecting my house. Also, I want to give the audience a kind of picture. I just don't do this by myself. I have a healing team of 106 angels and guides. So I have some phrase I sometimes use is horsepower behind me in terms of that. So, and the other thing this leads into is I clear out hospitals and things like that. I cleared out, the last time I cleared out Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, it was like over 200,000 negative vortexes. A lot of negativity. That doesn't interfere with the healing. It's going to get the negative stuff out of the way so the healing can happen. So the way to find out about this is my website is www.augustlightworker, all one word, .com, and there's a picture of me with my hat, and the book is also available there. There's about 7 or 8 pages of the website, and that'll orient you to the basic stuff. And also, I work with clients all over the world remotely. If you live within a couple hours of Abington, you can come in and see me, and we can have an in-person session. And sometimes I saw a person the other day, and I said, "Oh, a person," you know, because I'm doing all this stuff remotely. Now, so that's my website, and my healing team is important, and they enable me to work remotely all over the world. Now, the other person I want to introduce you is Gina Catania, and she lives and works in San Rafael, California. I've worked with her for over a year, and then she came to visit last November 30th through December 10th, and she's a native Californian, and unfortunately, that's when we had the 12 inches of snow. This lady had not seen 12 inches of snow, so it was pretty interesting. But anyway, she is a very, I have trained her personally, and so she can do just about anything that I can do. And there's the flyer, the picture of her and her contact information, and people can feel free to contact her. There's an email and a website and a phone number, San Rafael, California.